Hello, everybody, and welcome to Recruited Talkback. So I'm here with Rain Mercury, our director. Mehrdad Sarlak, who played Lambert in the show. Myself, Carolyn Carpenter, who wrote, produced, and starred as Staff Sergeant Schwartz, who you will see come in episode 5. Yay. And Heath Null, who is my husband, and he's also a United States Marine, and the inspiration for Recruited came loosely from his experiences as a Marine Corps recruiter, so it was inspired by that. Rain, why don't you kick it off and tell us a little bit about what it was like shooting episode 1?
So we didn't really, we initially wanted to film all of Recruited in sequential order. We wanted to be able to have all of the actors kind of build through their characters naturally, but of course we didn't really have that opportunity. A lot of the schedules were all over the place, and so it made it really difficult to kind of curtail the schedule in a way that would make sense. And that was probably one of the most difficult things when you and I were going back and forth with the schedule. I was doing this with my wife, and it was just one of these things where it was like, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to do this? And sure enough, we were. And so that was probably the biggest thing. So I knew that once that was taken care of, I made sure then on one of the last days, all of the internal office scenes that we shot was literally shot almost on the last weekend of the shoot. So everything that was everywhere else was shot first. Everything that you would see per se in the episodes in its order where you're in the office for the most part actually got filmed last.
So you're saying that all of episode 1 was shot on the last weekend of the shoot?
Yes. Pretty much.
So it's almost reverse continuity.
It was total reverse continuity, and it actually worked out really, really great. I thought everybody came out and really did a great job. So you wouldn't know it, but that's how it came across. So. Well, you two no doubt had a journey of your own writing this process, because I know we were meeting back 3 years ago, actually almost 4 now that the show is, by the time this is aired, it'll be pretty close to 4 years. And that's a long time.
2014.
Yes, and we actually worked at a different company together
People don't
at the
realize
time.
how long this stuff takes.
No, and there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of marketing, but there was definitely a journey here because of what was changing, why the storyline was changing. I mean, talk about that. What was going on?
Heath and I met almost 10 years ago.
Right? Yeah, it's a long time.
In 2010, when he was about to deploy to Afghanistan. So shortly after he went to Afghanistan, he came back. We started dating, and then he actually got assigned to recruiting duty. And I was living in Los Angeles. He was stationed up north in Santa Rosa at the time. So I fly back and forth and see him on the weekends.
If we were lucky.
If we were lucky. The inspiration for writing this came from that we would have friends come up and visit in Santa Rosa, friends from LA, and Heath would literally start the night. They go, "Oh, so how are things going for you, Heath?" And he would take a deep breath.
It was my venting. That's how I'd get my stress out.
That was therapy.
It was therapy to me. And I would tell my friends, I would be telling these stories, and my friends would look at me and they'd be laughing, and they would look at me like, "Oh, that really happened?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is all real." Because the most unreal stuff.
But that was you. That was your own personal experience.
Yeah, it's just such unreal events happen in the area, and nobody believed it was true.
So anyway, he would tell these stories the whole night.
Yeah.
And we'd leave, and he would be done as we were leaving. So nobody else would get to speak the entire time. And I'd be apologizing to people as we were leaving. "I'm so sorry you did that. I'm so embarrassed." He doesn't get out much anymore.
Right.
You know?
He hasn't seen the sunlight in 3 years.
All he does is recruit.
Because it's 7 days a week, right?
6.5.
Okay. Oh, we round up. 6.5 rounds to 7.
You get a half day on Sunday if you're making
bathroom
mission.
break.
So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So go on.
Enough people ended up saying to me afterwards, "You have to write a
Right.
script about this. You're in the entertainment industry. This has to be a movie. This has to be a TV show. This is
Right.
This
Oh,
is
yeah.
more
These
funny
stories
than
are-
fiction.
yeah.
This is, I mean, obviously we can't. Nothing in the show is an exact situation that Heath lived through. We have to.
There's no naked man walking down the street.
Well, that one wouldn't have flown anyway. But we have to fictionalize it since we're not. This is not we're not saying it's based on a true story or anything like that. It's fictionalized, but inspired by a lot of conversations as I was writing it. Say, okay, here's what I'm thinking, here's how I'm trying to introduce it. And I would show Heath all of my drafts and say, what do you think? Is this realistic? Is it not? Is this give me ideas. What are some general things that happen to 80% of the population of recruiters while they're serving on recruiting duty? Heath, do you want to talk about some of the things in this episode that were inspired by actual situations?
For example, like one of the experiences we had was when the sergeant major's talking to the 3 new recruiters. Something similar happened to us. We got out there, meet everybody in the command. They're talking to us, and they did say that expect a lot of you to fail. They even tell you that in recruiter school. When I went out there, there was 5 of us from the same class, me and 4 of the Marines. Only 2 of us made it back successful.
Jeez. Wow. That's like war.
Yeah, it's really bad. So that means 3 Marines that were career Marines were forced to get out for whatever reason.
So explain to me, because I served in the Navy, but not the Marine Corps. So definitely the rules don't always apply. They don't always cross. It's difficult to say. We didn't do that in the Navy, but why does the Marines do that? So they actually put your career on the line in that way.
Oh yes, they do. It's like rise to the occasion or get out. This is what they said. So I personally never wanted to be a recruiter. I hate people. I hate talking to people. And yet here I was.
Sounds familiar.
And I had to be successful out there at it. So the 3 R's is an actual saying on recruiting. If you make it out with your rank, your ribbon, and your ring, you're successful.
I was in the back because I was on the set obviously that day when you guys were shooting what we saw as the opening scene where he's giving him the lecture, and that actually caught my eye or my ear even that day where he's like, you could lose rank. That's real, and how do you lose your rank? What happens to make that happen?
Oh, there's so many.
So you can actually move backwards.
Yes, there's so many things on it. Since it's a special duty assignment, there are places where never met a Marine before. You're representing the Marine Corps. If you do the slightest thing wrong, they can and will fry you or burn you, run you up the flagpole. There's a lot of sayings. A big one out there is like when you said you will make mission. If people have somebody that wants to join the Marine Corps, but they're on a timeline. Hey, we need this piece of paper signed by this individual in 30 minutes. And that kid's in an hour-long class, an hour drive, and the kid wants to join it. People will, let me just take care of that signature here in the office. I got it. And they forced a signature. The kid wants to do it. You're just not physically.
Can't physically get the kid.
Get to the kid in time, and if something happens, whatever reason they figure that out, that it's forged, you're done. That's a big no-no. There's so many things.
Now, in the speech, the way we wrote it, it spoke to a very high divorce rate in recruiting, and I think that surprises a lot of people. Can you speak to that? I think a lot of people think of PTSD or marriage-related stress in the military as being kind of a combat-specific thing, but in fact, it's not.
We were together out there. You were my girlfriend at the time, later fiance and wife. You got to see a deployment. I got to talk to you on the phone. I got to write you letters. But while I was on recruiting duty, like she said, you try to fly up every other weekend, and even then, she'd fly up on a Friday night at 10 o'clock, and I was still at work, and I'd tell my boss, hey, I got to go pick up my fiance from the airport, and he's like, you got your 2 appointments? And I was like, no, I don't.
You're not leaving.
That's what he told me. It was a serious bone of contention between us because I'm like, fine, write me up. I'm going to the airport. I'm like, it's 10 o'clock. Who's going to answer the phone?
Right.
And I would leave, go pick her up, and I'd come back, and I was in trouble. So, and then, working 6.5 days a week, I would pick her up Friday night at 10 o'clock, get back, it's an hour and a half, depending on traffic. It's almost midnight.
Oh, my gosh.
I'd work Saturday, and, I would have to sneak off to have lunch with her. I'm out ACing somebody, having lunch with my wife now, and Sunday is my half day, if it's not a pool function, and then I drive her to the airport. So I got no time with her, and then I'm under all that stress. I'm venting to her about my days. It's just basically all she got to do for 3 years is hear me bitch. So And
That was true.
Well, you don't even get to see him when you're flying up.
No, I read a lot
it's
of
like
good
you're
books.
literally on your own. Because I remember on set, that was one of the things I asked you when you were telling me about your schedule when you guys were together. I was like, well, Carolyn, when do you actually get to see him? And you said, well, I read a lot when I'm out there.
Yeah.
I go to see him, but I never got to see him.
Yeah.
yeah, it was very difficult.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, I also think you probably have a very different mindset talking about the divorce rate during employment. There's like a totally different psychology that goes into, I hate to say it, but for a lack of a better way, the partner is able to be more understanding and patient when
Right.
the person's in deployment. Because like, hey man, they're at war.
Right.
They're on the other side of the planet shooting and getting shot at. And so I think it's probably a little bit easier for the partner to be understanding and patient and wade through that.
That's true.
Whereas this is like a different, because this is more like regular life. And I mean, I've never been in it, but I can just, as a civilian outsider, I can imagine that it would be a much more difficult thing to be patient with, and eventually you're like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Yes.
Like, you're not getting shot at, you're at an office job basically, why can't you make more time for me, why is this so difficult? So I can see where like during times of war, you know, it's easier to just be like, nope, I'm gonna, you know, be behind my partner. But now this is like after 3.5, 4 years of it, you're like,
So let me just say then, so I think episode 1 is definitely a good portrayal. One, to, you know, as the director looking at everything, I was looking at and conversing with you, the writer, as well as noticing that we really wanted to try to get across, you know, some elements that are serious. And it wasn't that, you know, we're trying to make fun of, but we're trying to show also to, in a lighter light, you know, there are the serious things. And in a way, when you hear it outside from not being in the military, it does sort of come off unbelievable, and almost in a comical way. You're like, really? Yeah, right. Like, it's really 3-year deployment kind of thing. But then that's actually really true. But then we're also trying to show you too, like, you know, the life in it of itself does have some humorous side, because it's just these things that, you know, they're almost so unbelievable. What's that old saying is sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. These are the people you deal with. These are the accounts that actually do occur. And we're hoping that, you know, we do get it across that, you know, you can still laugh about it. You know, Marines do succeed through these tough times. And sometimes when you look back, you know, we can take moments to laugh about them and to, you know.
Well, I think our cast and crew really appreciated that. So another fun fact about the show is that a large portion of the cast and the crew were veterans.
Yes.
So it not only Rain, who served in the Navy, and Heath, who served in the Marine Corps, but the majority of our crew were veterans.
Yep.
I would say at least 30 to 40% of the actors were veterans.
Yes.
So the veteran involvement in this was extremely high, and we did that intentionally. This was a show about them, and we wanted them to be part of it. We didn't want to just, you know, hire only people that were strictly professional actors. And a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of people in the military who get out of the military and then go into the entertainment industry.
Totally.
I mean,
Yeah.
Adam Driver is a great,
Yep.
very popular example
Perfect,
of
yeah.
that.
Yeah, when I got
so-
out, there was nothing, none of this was available to me. When I got out, it was very like, I had actually landed an agent in San Diego, but I had just got taken on deployment. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just landed an agent. This is my last deployment. Shoot, she's not gonna sign me. Fortunate she did right when I got back. But I noticed that there wasn't a bridge to get, you know, to help me get into being a cinematographer and a writer and a director and an actor. There really wasn't a bridge that supported that. And as of late, there is, over the last few years now, a new group called the VME, the Veterans in Media and Entertainment. And I'd come across a number of veterans that really wanted to get into the industry, but they just didn't really know how. There wasn't that bridge. You know, could they meet? How could they work with Emmy Award winners and stuff like that? How could they work with other experienced people? How could they get their first gig? Could they get their SAG? And really, this was the project that really did that. And so I took to it because I was like, wow, this is something I think I could sink my teeth into and really pull along some other vets that are needing a bridge to do this.
We're going to do one more quick question, one more conversation topic, and then we're going to wrap this up. If you're enjoying these talkbacks, never fear, they're going to be associated with every episode. We've got 11 more coming because there's 12 episodes in season 1. So you'll hear more inside info from our director, Rain Mercury, actor Mehrdad Sarlak, who played Lambert, myself, Carolyn Carpenter, writer, producer, and actress, and Heath Null, our inspiration for the project. Heath, so the one thing I think every civilian out there who is watching the show is going to be asking themselves is, what the heck was with that ending? Like a green dick popsicle? Like what
I think
was
the
that?
technical term is a weenie.
Yes.
I heard.
Yes.
Yes, he heard it on the set of anytime something goes wrong in the Marine Corps with you, you see, they always tell you, you get the big green weenie. It screws you over. You got the big green weenie. And that's
what it is.
So that's the joke. We'll leave y'all with the big green weenie for today. And thank you so much. Stay tuned for episode 2 of Recruited, which should be coming up on Recruited TV soon. So take care, everyone. Thank you.